An Olive Garden stole a waitress's $700 tip, fired her, and then called the cops on her. This is a post made by Bunny Williams on FB. This is the mother. She writes, "Yesterday, my daughter received a $700 tip on a $30 tab and was obviously excited. The manager told her they could not pay it out yet and instructed her to write 0 on the tip line until it could be verified. She became upset because no one could tell her how long that would take. She asked a coworker to take her next table because she was visibly emotional, and management told her that she could either do her job or leave. She took the table and finished her shift. Later, they said they could give her 20% while the rest was reviewed. One manager said 1 to 2 days, another said up to 120. This morning, when she arrived to work, they decided to part ways over her behavior from yesterday and handed her paperwork stating tips over a certain amount are subject to manager review. Also told her it could take up to 120 days to receive the money, and even called the police on her because she was crying and upset. This server is a single mother to a 4-year-old autistic child, and the customer who tipped her was one of her regulars. She even posted proof of the receipt. They told her Happy Mother's Day up here, that it's been a while since they've seen her, glad that they could catch her. There is a little something to help you on your journey. Love and blessings, $700. She also shared the paperwork from when she was terminated and their policy on what happens when tips exceed 20%, which is fine, whatever. But then to proceed to go on to fire her and then call the police on her is absolutely insane. She wrote, "I was let go from my job under circumstances that I believe were retaliatory despite my dedication and hard work. Throughout my employment, I consistently showed up, did my best, and worked hard to support myself and my child. To make matters worse, I never received the tip out compensation that I earned through my effort. As a single parent raising a child with autism, every dollar matters, and losing both my job and the wages I worked for has placed a significant financial and emotional strain on my family. I am simply seeking fairness and accountability for the work that I performed and the challenges my child and I now face as a result of this situation." So let's get Olive Garden's attention and get this girl her money.
I always say if you want the full story, you gotta go do the digging. So this woman by the name of Brooke Skies, who used to work at Olive Garden in Fayetteville, Georgia, received a $700 tip on May 31st and returned back to work June 1st to find out she was fired. Now, when the situation happened, Olive Garden told her to write 0 on the tip line and that it was gonna take 120 days to see if the tip cleared, and gave her $6. Now, what Olive Garden did anticipate is that the server mom had a TikTok account who goes by the name of Fat Bunny. She told her followers on Wednesday that her daughter and the customer personally knew one another. Mind you, when the card was swiped, it went through. Olive Garden got wind and wrote, "To protect our guests and team members from fraud, we have a policy in place to verify tips over $500 when a tip like this is given. The team member immediately receives a 20% tip on the check, and the remaining amount is provided once payment is successfully confirmed." Then they turned around and addressed the situation on TikTok, saying it's Olive Garden's policy to verify tips over $500 or far above the check amount. Olive Garden contacted the bank and confirmed there were insufficient funds to cover the $700 tip. Now, the customer told the server's mom that his card was charged twice, once for $38 and another transaction for $693. The customer said they locked their card to prevent any further transactions. Meanwhile, Olive Garden accused the customer of trying to scam them. I'm just saying, if the payment went through, she should have received that bread. Plain and simple. She shouldn't have lost her job because somebody wanted to be generous. And if Olive Garden did charge this customer's card twice, that's why it didn't go through a second time. But to give this girl a $6 tip and she continues to go on with her shift, continuing to work, and you fire her the next day, is some bullshit. Count me out.
Hey, so I wanted to hop on here to give an update about the Olive Garden drama with my daughter. She was today indeed fired for her behavior from what happened yesterday. She received a $700 tip on a $30 tab from a regular customer that hadn't been in a while. Clearly wrote out $700 on the tip. So she says it's rude to pick up the tab while the customer is still sitting there, so she didn't notice it until after he left. And when she took it to the manager told her to put 0 in the tab because that was just too much money to hand out. It needed to be verified. Didn't tell her anything about how long it would take or if she'd even get her money or when she would get it once it's verified. So clearly she was upset because she's thinking that she's not going to get the money or doesn't know when she's going to get the money, and asked one of her coworkers to take the next table because so she could regain herself. She knew that she was visibly upset and didn't want to greet her customers that way. Her manager then said to her that she's here to do a job, and if she can't do it, then she needs to leave. My daughter then got herself together, went and picked up the table, completed her shift, and at the end of the shift, they then told her that they could give her 20%. So they gave her $6 on the $700 tip. She calls me, of course, she's upset. I said, well, if it's policy, then you just have to wait. That's just what it is. And she understood, and that was that. So I said, but you do need to probably call and find out to see exactly what the policy is. Is it based on manager's discretion? Is it a corporate policy? You need to find out for yourself. So that was the next step for today. Yesterday was Sunday. So today she was going to go in, which she did. She went in, clocked in, and she said she came about 15 minutes early, 20 minutes early, like she always does, to wrap her silverware. And her manager, who is actually the GM, whose name is on the building, said to her that he couldn't clock her in early, that they needed to discuss something with her. So she already had a feeling. She calls me and was like, Mommy, I think they're going to fire me. I'm going to leave you on the phone because they want to discuss something with me. And I'm like, fine. So she sits down and he immediately says, she's over 18 and we don't have to discuss anything with you. Whatever she decides to tell you, she can tell you. I'm on the phone on the other end. I said, hello, hi, how are you? He goes, oh, hi, how are you? Yes, we'll discuss this with her and then she could pass the information on to you. I said, fine, that's fine. So, of course, she calls me back hysterical, crying because they just fired her. She's struggling, single mom, all the things. I'm helping her raise my grandson, Kenzo, who's autistic. He's 4. So those are all the things that are going through her head, that she's trying so hard. Just got her apartment a couple of months ago. And she's upset. So she's like, I don't want to leave because why all of a sudden do I have a $700 tip and I'm fired the next day? So they tell her while I'm on the phone with her that they're calling the police. And she's like, good, call the police because you're stealing my money. And I'm not the police, I'm not the law, but as far as I knew, if you're holding over $500, it is theft. That's considered theft. So I said, then stay there, wait for the police to come, let them determine if that is, stealing or not. So I hang up with her. She's upset. I told her, don't even say another word to them. Be in your little space and wait for the police. So I just got off the phone with her and the police did come. They did feel like she was in the right. Although they could fire her at, their discretion. I believe Georgia's a work at will state. They still do believe that it was a wrongful termination and that she should probably get a lawyer. It's just so sad and pitiful Olive Garden would have to do something like that to this young lady. My advice to her was, to always keep your composure, gather yourself, be the adult, because you still have to communicate what's wrong without emotion. So I would be pissed too. I'm pissed for her. But what has happened has happened. They're not going to invite her back. They're not going to give her money tomorrow or tonight or whatever. We have to now figure out what the next steps are. So there's a lot of people, when I put that post up with the receipt, that it was a stolen post, or it says Brooke on the receipt. That's her name. I'll tag her. That's her Instagram, TikTok name, Brooklyn. But all of that shit doesn't matter. It matters is that this man, who my daughter said has been coming for her, it fired her. Another thing that she told me, which pissed me off probably more than the $700, is about a month ago, she was waiting in the front to get a table, and there was a waitress coming through, and she said to everybody, watch out, there's a waitress coming, because they were all crowded in the front. And the same manager said to her, you need to watch out, because you're... And she's like, Mommy, he made a gesture And my coworker was like, well, what is that supposed to mean? And he says to her, well, she's wide. I said, what? I said, he said, what? You wide? He called you wide? She's like, yeah. She said, I was so offended. And so I went to tell another manager, and she confronted him and said, what did you say to her? Like, you shouldn't talk to her like that. And he said, well, I was just telling everybody there's a wide load coming through. And her coworker were like, no, you called Kayla wide. You said she was wide. And he said, the other manager, which is actually underneath him, said, well, you should apologize because that wasn't very nice of you to talk to her like that. And he says to her, well, I apologize if you feel that way. That's not what I meant. We all know that's projection. He meant what he said, and he said what he meant. So from that point on, she's been saying it this whole month. He's coming for me. He's coming for me. And my daughter can be dramatic. It is what it is. And I'm like, okay, well, just remain professional. Do your job. Do your job. Go home. You have a child to raise. But now I feel like this was the perfect excuse since she got upset yesterday. He was probably pissed off at her for telling on him. And she even went above both of the managers because she felt like he was coming for her and still feel like nothing has happened. I always felt like when that happened yesterday or today, there was a back route to this whole story, and I was right. So I guess I'll just keep you posted on what happens. But yeah, she got fired after receiving a $700 tip, which she still has not received. So she's at home, balled up crying, I'm sure, but she'll be fine. She'll be fine. But thanks y'all for listening. Love y'all. Bye for now.
I really can't believe Olive Garden would do this to one of their employees. And it's just sad. But you can't put it past no company. But in reality, I don't think they was in the right for doing this. They fired an employee over a $700 tip that was given to her, talking about they don't like the way she acted when she received the tip that day. The reason why she acted like that is because Olive Garden was doing something funny. Soon as she got paid the tip, I know they talking about they got a policy. And then when she asks about the policy, she get two different stories. One manager tell her it takes a couple days for it to go through. And then another manager tell her it could take up to 120 days. So in reality, I think they was trying to keep her tip. They was trying to get down on her. And then when she seen that, they talking about she was acting strange and then called the cops on her? How you gonna call the cops on somebody that earned their money rightfully and you in the wrong? This is what I think. They was planning on taking that money. And then, like she said, they probably did it out of retaliation. And little did they know that her mother had a TikTok. And then she was going to expose them. And then they had to come back with their side of their story. But their side don't make sense. And that customer that tipped this employee is a regular. So with that being said, she has to do a good job for that customer to tip her $700. And it's crazy because you know how servers make their money. I didn't know that. We had a topic about this earlier. We had a discussion. Majority of them make their money off tips. So when they get tipped a good amount, all of a sudden it's a slow process. That don't make no sense. It sounds like they're trying to steal from the employee. And it's just crazy that this single mother had to go through this. She has a child to take care of. And that's a no-no. Playing with people's money is a no-no. I don't care what the situation is. And it's just a sad world out here. It's always something. And they know they was in the wrong. That's why they're trying to defend themselves. But the more and more they come out trying to defend themselves, Olive Garden, the more crazy they look. And like the customer said, they tried to charge their card twice, talking about insufficient funds. If the funds was insufficient, it shouldn't have went through the first time. And that was something that Olive Garden was trying to do. And they tried to tell her, write 00 on the tip for the receipt, just in case the $700 didn't go through. That sounded like they had a plan already. Sound like management was really trying to steal. And that's crazy. But that's how I go. When there's money involved and emotions involved, that's what people will do. Just greed for money. And it's not that serious. And then they're going to have the nerves to fire her when she come back into work the next day. And of course she's going to have an attitude when she realizes what's going on, what they're trying to do. Anybody in their right mind would have an attitude. This is just outrageous. And as you can see, the mother of this server was speaking up because she had a TikTok account. That's why it's like, with social media, companies can't get away with nothing. And that's a bad look. And that's my take on this situation. Let me know how y'all feel. Leave it in the comments. And I'm going to see y'all on the next one. Peace. This was crazy.